Hi, I'm Sophie, and I haven't seen a lot of films.
Hi, I'm Paul, and I'm here to help with that. And we are
SP, Film Viewers.
So we're here for the second instalment of anime.
Mhm.
Obviously, it was a nicer one last time, but going a bit heavier.
Do you want to make me cry? You know I'm emotional as it is in life. You don't need to put a sad anime on.
And what's most interesting about this is it's actually from Studio Ghibli. So they're normally for what you've kind of seen in the past with Totoro and Ponyo. And
So you're ruining it for me. Is that what you're saying? You're like,
well, not
she can't enjoy anime. It has to be like, now, ruin Studio Ghibli for me because you're going to make me cry my eyes out for whatever reason. And the fact is, even in anime, like, it can't just be nice and fluffy. So what's the story about?
So it's called Grave of the Fireflies.
Somebody died.
And it's about a young boy and his little sister struggling to survive in Japan during World War II. So it's kind of like a serious piece.
Heavy hitting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to cry my eyes out.
I feel like they felt it necessary to tell this story. But what's kind of interesting is they kind of paired it up. Off the top of my head, I don't know as to what came first, but they did like a double bill in Japan screening. So they screened this with My Neighbor Totoro. So I don't know whether it was stick the war film on first and then have the happy, nice one.
Well, that's what I'd do.
To make you feel better. Or...
But even My Name is Totoro, it does have a bit of a sad... Obviously, the mum's not very well.
Yeah. But
it's not touching on war and, people dying and all of that.
Yeah, the horrors of it, yeah. So
and I know Japan have had it quite bad with World War II, didn't they? They didn't...
Just a bit with the whole Hiroshima bombing, yeah.
So I can understand why this is quite a historical piece for them to kind of portray in an animation, which could be educational.
Yeah, in a sense.
Doesn't mean it needs to be educational to me because I've been to Hiroshima. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I don't need to cry anymore.
Yeah. I mean, we went to the museum and everything, and that was... I've seen a visual of that.
Mm-hmm.
The scope of how big the impact had on the area with the visual of this diorama type of thing of displaying it, and it was just like, oh my god, like, can't believe it, like, just...
But it shows how amazing the culture in Japan is, even when something like that hits and happens.
And it's to remember it, but in a way of like, let's not let this happen again. It's not to brush it under like just and it didn't happen type of thing. It's to remember it,
but also they've built up by it as well. So they've been able to kind of have something that is now sadly a tourist attraction, but for at least the kind of benefiting from
importance. Yeah. So and what's also finally interesting is the fact that this is the only, here in the UK anyway, they've got all the other Studio Ghibli films up on Netflix, but I think this is the only one that isn't on there for some reason, which I feel like is kind of a very strange, that I feel like a lot of people haven't, should have more access to this.
You haven't seen this, have you?
No, I have seen this, yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Just don't put it past me.
Yeah. But I do think it's important to cover, so...
I always do think like a Studio Ghibli does give you a reason about a film. I feel like it's a bit like a Disney film. There's a moral always behind it. Like Spirited Away, there is. And so,
of importance. So, yeah. So
visually, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, but maybe not in the way you're normally used to seeing things, so it'd be...
No, I can imagine initially they're going to show you the greenery, the lush, the kind of idyllic lifestyle, and then it'll go into this is what's happened, and it'll get darker as it goes on. That's what I'm envisioning. I can't imagine a Studio Ghibli not having any nature in it.
Yeah, so we'll be back very shortly with our thoughts, or your thoughts more specifically, on what your first time watch is on Over the Fireflies.
Looking forward to it. Ish.
You say that, but yeah.
With a box of tissues and chocolate.
Tentatively, yeah.
Sobbing.
Hello everybody, this is Paul from SP Film Viewers. Just wanted to do a little shout out to try and plug the Patreon. Yep, we've jumped on that bandwagon. Now, you might be wondering, what do you get for giving us money? Well, for the low price of £1 or $1.50 or wherever the conversion is, plus VAT, you get to show your support for the show. You get a nice little shout out at the end of every episode so that everybody who listens gets to know what a great person you are, and we'll also include your handles for any of the social media platforms you're on, whatever you like basically. Also, once a month you'll get the opportunity to pick a movie for me and Sophie to watch and review, so that you really feel like you're getting your value for money. And that's it. For the time being anyways. So head over to patreon.com/spfilmviewers, get involved, and thank you for being part of the community. Cheers. And we are back, having experienced Grave of the Fireflies. Was it as emotionally draining as you thought?
I don't know if I was just not in the right place to be kind of emotionally drained. I don't know. Like, I didn't cry, and I thought I would. I assumed with the topic and everything like that would. I think there was at one point a little bit, and it was really far to the end, that kind of made me tear up. But there was no actual water coming out of my eyes. I do think it's a hard one to watch, and I think it is a little bit. If you like Studio Ghibli for the reason I like Studio Ghibli, it's a bit of a different take on things. There's not
absolutely.
It's all very grey. There's even like a sepia tone to it. It's like when
a lot of browns.
Yeah,
dark colours, but it's going to be for the subject matter. Really, it's not.
Yeah, and the story, they still have their quirks of the adorableness. So like, I'm rubbish with names, but the little girl,
Setsuko.
Yeah, she's
really cute.
She's so cute, and you just want a little child like her. Basically, she's adorable, and she's the main part of the film for me. Even though her brother, what's his name?
Sato, I think it was Sato. That's what it came up on subtitles.
Okay,
whether it's pronounced that way, I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like he's the main lead, but he isn't at the same time. I still think he's
the adult.
Yeah.
In the situation, because he's having to look after his sister because his father's away in the war, and his mother, she's there at the beginning, but then with the air raid bombing.
All of that though as well though, like why didn't they just go to the shelter together? Like why did she swanny off without him? I know she had a heart problem and whatever, but it was like, I don't know, I feel like Studio Ghibli only like to do either, it's like a bit like Disney. They only want you to have one parent. They can't be asked drawing the dad,
it's nothing to do with being asked to draw
the character development or something of another character. And it's like, so like Disney, they always have just one parent, and then they lose them or something happens, or like Beauty and the Beast, she just has her dad.
And Aladdin, like Jasmine.
Yeah. So it's just like, what is this? And I think this is the same case, but then they lose the mum quite quickly, and it's like, wait a minute, couldn't this storyline have had a mum in it? But even like Totoro, they've got parents, but yet they're not the main focus, and I feel like that's a lot within anime. It's normally the younger.
I think it's partly down to depend on the subject matter, but like in a child's imagination, that's can run away with itself and be a lot more interesting. We
get boring as we grow older.
But in terms of this, it makes you feel a little bit more, because obviously it's affecting younger generation as well as the adults. Obviously, adults can sort of cope with it as best they can, but showing the impact of what it has to kids of, I think Sato's 14 and Setsuko is 4.
I think it's harder for her because she doesn't understand, and
she's got that sort of like childlike innocence, which is understandable because she doesn't understand what's going on. Like, I don't want to go into the shelter; it's too warm
and itchy.
And itchy, yeah.
And then, like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
But not being able to actually explain, well, there's rations, you can't have all the food you need, sadly everybody's struggling, and you all have to kind of make cutbacks, and it's really tricky. And like, she obviously loves those tinned sweets.
Yeah, the fruit drops. Yeah,
Yeah,
that sort of like plays a key part throughout the film, because it's like the hard outer casing of the tin, but then there's like this, taking comfort in that sweet little delight that's inside, basically, and it's like just in amongst all this chaos that's going on, it's like, oh, I can just have a sweet and kind of make you feel better for a little while, kind of thing. It's just like, so it's sort of nourishment, but not,
and
like
saving
just a treat,
the moment as well, and the sugar rush that you get from it, and also the rattling of the tin, like even that, like being a child, kind of, it's like a toy at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see like her connection towards it. Obviously, she's just quite a sweet character, and I think out of all of it, I feel like I would have liked to have seen her live.
Yes, spoilers. Yeah.
Well, there's not really. I guess there is a bit of spoilers to it, because initially when we start, we know.
It doesn't make it any much easier, really, but at least it's kind of like making you prepared as such, like straight up. They don't survive.
I don't know if that's... Maybe if they hadn't have done that, I would have cried more towards it, I think, to be fair. But because I knew they kind of told me that they were going to die, I'd already...
I guess, yeah.
...was aware, so it wasn't like it... And they kind of did them flashbacks where they were ghosts as well. Yeah.
So looking on the past of, the situation of their life and what's going on around them and such. But I feel like that's probably why it was made into an animated feature, because you've got that element of like a ghostly spirit watching over the course of everything and sort of like telling the tale of here's what happened kind of thing. I don't think this would have worked if it was a live action, probably because it would feel a lot more horrific, like
bombs dropping
and not just that, more obviously like representing Setsuko, like, obviously when she's later on, when she's kind of like malnutritioned, and obviously like if you saw a 4-year-old girl looking like that really would like be heartbreaking, but it sort of makes it a little bit easier. It's still hard, it's still a difficult subject, but to show a visual of that as an anime version,
it's still beautified a little bit, isn't it, even though it's hitting a raw subject,
and also it makes it a lot easier to show that, like, just draw the cheeks a bit more gaunt and a bit thinner and everything than that. I guess that's part of it. But
and also when she's chewing on a button, thinking it's a little
marble,
fruit drop,
bless her,
and she's like,
yeah.
And I think that to me is when coming to the further end of that. That's where it gets me most. I would say throughout it, you kind of see the struggles that they're going through. Like obviously, initially when they're going into the shelters and such, like. She loses a shoe and she's devastated, but then she gets a brand new shoe. And then this family take her in and look after her. And initially they're quite nice until...
Yes, relatives of...
Yeah, but they feel like they kind of use them, like they get what they want from the rice and everything like that and sell the caminos of the mum. And then it's like, oh, well, no, you don't work, so you don't get the luxuries, even though they were their inheritance that she's just sold, technically.
Yeah, no, like, exactly.
So it's like, well, actually, it is theirs, not yours, and you're just taking advantage now. And it's just shows like everybody's out for their own self within these situations.
Which is, it's to be understandable. Everyone could.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to take from a child, would you? You wouldn't have thought.
No. It's almost like the aunt almost like turns when she finds out her sister's dead. So it's like, oh, well, now I don't really want the responsibility of looking after these your kids
like,
now.
You're a
burden now. So.
But imagine like that's the equivalent of like either Sarah or Joe having a child and us not looking after it.
Just because it's inconvenient, yeah.
Yeah, and because we can't afford it. And it's like, well, why would you do that? It's a child, it still needs looking after and love.
Yeah, and she's like complaining about, and Setsuko's like crying and stuff. It's like, well, sorry, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, she's a 4-year-old. It's like, her mum's died, her dad's in the war. She's
understandably upset with the situation and everything, and probably,
bit of compassion.
and hunger, that kind of thing, the underlying thing. But it doesn't make it any easier in that situation because she probably like frustrated for the fact of like, oh, just like with everything going on, there's two sides of it to look at it, but it doesn't as us the viewer, it's kind of like just show a bit of compassion for the situation.
No, definitely, because I feel like she's a lot older. She should know better, and she should be looking after them and not kind of taking them for granted and making them feel unwelcome. And that's literally what it is. And they end up moving out and being a lot happier for a bit, surviving by themselves.
Just having to be in that bomb shelter, like just out of the way. That's sort of like the bit of the countryside, essentially, that they've got away from, where it's untouched at this moment in time, anyway.
To be fair, it's actually quite savvy of them, because not meaning this in an awful way. Back in the war, you're not going to bomb a country field, are you, when there's nobody there? You're going to save your bombs for like a city.
A city where
everybody's cooped up. So actually they're a lot safer when they're staying there, which is better, apart from having to go back in and get food and such from the city. Yeah, you're
risking yourself having to scramble to get stuff like that, yeah.
Because there's one part where the brother's going in when the bombs are kicking off so that he can kind of steal from other places and try and sell them, because he's run out of money, or he's run out of things to trade of his mother's, and he's getting to a point where he can't afford food, and because he's not living anywhere, he can't get rations. So it's like kind of being homeless, technically, and the perks of not being able to get anything.
I feel like in those situations, I can imagine it probably was like that the money is almost worthless at that point, because, it would be back to like just trading something more useful for food rations as opposed to.
But then it's also a case of, well, if my house has been bombed, I am homeless, but I should still be on the radar somewhere, like, for that, because it's not my fault that my house has just been taken away from me.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you've just lost your mum, you've lost your home, your dad's nowhere to be seen, your auntie don't give a hoot about you, and you've only got each other. So for the brother, all that responsibility on a 14-year-old.
No, and he's trying his best as well with trying to like stop his sister from getting upset. There's like an isolated shot where he's like on the railings spinning around, like, oh, look at me, kind of thing, because he doesn't know what to do. It's like, oh, look, clap, happy, clappy kind of thing. It's all he can do. But she's still just like crouched down and really just upset, and it's like so bleak. Yeah.
And he, like, not telling her that his mum has passed away. So that kind of comes into effect when they're in the shelter, where she's getting scared of the dark. So they get the fireflies, and they bring them all in. And obviously they're trapped in a mosquito net, so they eventually die. And she builds a grave
for the fireflies.
Fireflies. And he goes out and comes back and he's like, what are you doing? And then she's like, I build a grave like we did for Mummy. And he's like, what do you mean? And that's quite hard.
Yeah, for her to have to deal with death of that caliber at that age. And obviously he starts breaking down to her because
he's tried to kind of give her innocence still. And obviously he knows he's got all these burdens, but he doesn't want to put them on her because she's so young. And yet his auntie just went and told him, even though
I know,
he didn't want them to tell her. So it's like, the auntie is a bitch in this. Like, literally, it's like utter cow.
Yeah, and it's so. I think that's why the film is called what it is as well, because it's like, the fact that the fireflies have such they're like a beacon of light in the dark times, but it gets snuffed out so quickly. Obviously, a short space of time, just like the lives of not just them specifically, the brother and sister, but everybody else.
Anyone within the war.
Is gone. Yeah, life's taken away.
And I think this is where you kind of see they kind of do really well while there is rations. They get by, and then when civilization comes back to norm and Japan sadly loses the war, and it's yet again them kind of rehabilitating into reality again. And I think that's when they struggle to get back into that kind of action, and that's when they are able to get food. Obviously, Setsuko, she's getting poorly and having diarrhea, and you can see the kind of effects of.
I think it's part. Well, I looked into like when they mentioned about the black rain. Obviously, when the bombs coming down, and that's just like the ash and dust that's combined with the rain. And I think that's just almost like maybe not radioactive, but like very toxic to the things. So that probably didn't help matters. All that going on, just breathing in bad
water they were using. They used it from the well, so if they were using that and it's got that in it, and they're drinking
exactly, that could have been easily polluted at any point. Yeah. I mean, she's more affected, but I mean, it's just because she's just younger and she needs more sustenance than he does. And
I think as well, he's getting rations, like when he's out and about, he's getting little bits and eating.
Yeah, he's like shoveling rice when he can, but
obviously she's not getting that. So what he's bringing back is not as much as what he would get. But obviously he's going out and about more, so he's going to need some more substance than she would.
But I feel like there was probably more underlying problems when she was saying, "Oh, I don't like the shelter; it's too warm," as if she gets like heat rashes or something that was just like a condition, like you get eczema and stuff, and that's
mosquito bites. I was wondering if there was like mosquitoes there, because like it was like that was mentioned a lot, like getting under the net
and stuff. Maybe could well be, or just
so it could be that a mosquito has bitten her, and you can get malaria and such like that from.
Yeah, I'm not sure they in Japan though,
but yeah,
I don't know.
So I don't know,
yeah.
But I think there was an under illness, but they just said, "Oh, she wasn't fed properly."
Mm-hmm.
Did the doctor and kind of said,
"It's like right next, moving on."
And it's like, well, what can I do?
What food can I give you? Tell me where I can get this magical food
to fix it,
to fix the problem.
I think there is a nice moment they have where they have a fun day at the beach.
Oh yeah, again, it's like just taking a break from everything, essentially. Get away, and it's like a moment of just like let's just enjoy ourselves, be kids, essentially.
Until then, the bombs come back in again, and then they're like, "Oh, we have to run home."
And also, she's kind of like, "Oh, there's a body there.
Yeah,
he's sleeping," and it's obviously indicated by there's flies around it. It's like the brother's like, "No, come and get away from that."
Yeah,
and things. So it's like, So it's not even in this pretty idyllic scene. There's something, underlying problems of the war going on there. So I think there's. I mean, obviously, throughout there is a lot of anti-war imagery, so that obviously like peppered throughout. I think like one bit where Setsuko it's kind of got this that tin hat. She's doing like the salutes and stuff like, and like a child shouldn't be doing knowing about stuff like this at this age, and or like seeing these dead bodies around and everything like in such regular occurrence. And they go, all right, let's go into the little braid shelter again.
It's like the norm instead of actually, what life should be like. The other moment I thought, which was really sweet, is when they run out of fruit drops and he fills it up with water and shakes it, and it's like the best drink.
Yeah, the colours of the rainbow and like Skittles.
Yeah. I just thought that was really sweet because it's like shows the simplicity of things, like how grateful they were for things. And there's a lot of things nowadays I think we take for granted for what we've got.
Yeah.
And all she was enjoying was some water with some sugar
and water, basically.
Yeah, and it was the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really sweet. But you got to smile at the little things in this particularly. The rest of it's pretty grim for the most part. So
the other bit is obviously her brother's stealing food from the farmers, and he gets to a point where the farmer does catch him.
Yeah,
and takes him to the police station, but he's beating him up quite badly.
But
and
the policeman's on his side with that. He kind of like, oh well, I could do you for assault to the farmer who's done it. So it's kind of like sees one of the sympathetic adults in this.
But also, bless her, my little
Setsuko, yeah.
She runs all the way to the police station and follows, and she stood there waiting once her brother comes out for him and hugs him. And it's like, imagine just running all that way, but you don't know where you're going, but you don't want to lose somebody else because I'll be on my own.
I know. Very upsetting.
And then should we go on to the scene that upsets me?
Are you referring to the part where those ladies and all the finery kind of come back to the house, or like back to normality, I guess? And they open the windows to the house. Oh, it's been ages since I've been here. And then they're kind of overlooking the bomb shelter where Setsuko and Sato have been. And then there's the record player playing I say almost melancholy music. Probably not intended for that. But that's, for me, that was almost like a part where you see the little remnants of Setsuko playing near the bomb shelter and the music's playing, and I think that's meant to be a purposely emotional moment.
Well, there's no kind of noise or anything like that. It is just the music in the background. There's nobody speaking to anybody. There's a little bit of laughter beforehand, but there's not actually...
I think it's stuff that she's kind of said, but it sounded like more like a ghostly echo.
Yeah,
really,
it's just her on her own.
Yeah.
And it's showing what she's getting up to while her big brother's out providing.
Yeah.
And I think it's just captures the sweet simplisticness of a child.
Yeah.
Like when she's got the big blanket round her and she's zooming round, when she's making things and all of that, and just being really playful. It's just like a nice way to send her off.
And so it did almost get me. But
I whelmed, I got there.
Yeah.
And then it luckily stopped.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then it kind of went to her brother and showed the situation that he was in and how dire that was. Kind of doing a 360 to the beginning, basically.
Almost, yeah. Like, he's got the tin with her ashes in, because that's something he has to do. He has to, almost like the remainder of his money he's got left after she passed away, to, obviously he wants to, keep her by side in whatever way he can, so he has to build a pyre and cremate her, and therefore, keep her ashes in the tin. So it's like again, shows the importance of this object. And when he you see at the beginning where he's like in the train station and he's curled up, again malnutritioned and just weak, and he's just surrounded by these other kids who are also in the same position that he's in. And yeah, again, it's quite heavy with that when you think about it, even from going back to that and at the beginning, I guess. What I think was interesting was, I guess the people who were like the janitors or whoever they were, like clearing up the mess at the train station, because I assume the Americans were sort of like occupying at that point. So one of them picks up the tin and does like a baseball throw, as if like that's like a thing that the Americanisms are coming over to Japan. Not to say they didn't play baseball, but I think that was just something brought over by and popularized by America. So it's kind of like that's coming into effect at that point. And as he throws it out into the field from the train station, it kind of lands in the field, and Setsuko is like released, freed from her little urn. I don't know.
But also then the fireflies all
come out as well, as in symbolize like
life. And then it's a nice ending where they're both sat looking at Tokyo. And they're in like that red kind of scale. I know. I don't know if it was. I did think whether it was actually Tokyo, but I think it's. Now that I looked, I thought there's obviously probably a lot more places affected by it, but I think it was the city of Kobe. Not heard of that one with my ignorance, but I guess they do have lots of other cities, don't they? Yeah. But Tokyo's the biggest.
But this is one that's focusing on this in this story, because it's a short story. This is based off of, written by. I'm butchering his name now. Hakiyuki Nosaka. So it's based off his experiences in the bombings and stuff. Right. So he's like a survivor of that in that city. So, and the funny thing is, he actually helped fund this to get made.
No, I think it's is important, and it's kind of a clever way to show a bit of history within an anime, and kind of a hard, touching subject in a nicer manner than, like you're saying, like if it was
actual live action people,
it would be too much.
It would feel much more real, and you'd probably like it'd be very hard to watch, because it say people screaming or anything like that, whereas you can sort of control what you show with animation.
Yeah,
obviously they've got to have storyboards and everything to show like some impact, but not too grim, because like I think back to when they're showing like the city, it was like when after one of the first bombings and all the fire that's going on, you kind of see a couple of bodies just lying there lifeless, and obviously screams and wails there, but it's not lingered on that too much. It's kind of just like, not like they were bleeding out or anything crazy, but it's still like enough of an impact to show you how important this is. But the reason it was initially distributed and made to coincide with Totoro, because that was the only way Miyazaki could have been able to make Totoro.
What do you mean?
As in, he wanted to tell a story, the story of My Neighbor Totoro, but I don't know who the film distributors were like, no, you can only make My Neighbor Totoro if you make a film, I guess, about war, basically.
Right. So
that's the reason. So without this film, think about it, there would be no My Neighbor Totoro, and he wouldn't be the mascot. of like Ghibli.
That's like saying Pikachu won't be the mascot. It's just like dumbfounding, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the original pitch for it was for Totoro was rejected, so they had to do it as a double feature.
It's just like,
and then backed financially by Nosaka, the story writer, to get it made because he felt like he believed in the project and things. So it's interesting when I do my research sometimes and actually look into how things work.
When you do some work on it, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing those.
But, sorry?
Thanks for bringing those up to his attention. Actually doing some effort.
But no, I thought based off of what I said before about like why it was done as a double bill.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there must be a sort of reason behind that, and there was. And what I said when we started the pre-ramble was like, I don't know whether I'm still not completely clear as to whether it was just some screenings that showed Grave of the Fireflies first and then Totoro, or the other way around. But I would think more logically, you'd want to start with the heaviest Grave of the Fireflies first, and then have a nice, calming, nicer story.
100%. That's what I'd do.
Right, because if you've seen Totoro, and then like, well, right, what's the next one? This heavy anti-war film was supposed to be, and like, no, it's too much for me. I'm just gonna get up and leave.
Yeah, because you've seen Totoro. Yeah. Out of this, I would say My Neighbor Totoro Totoro is just a lot better in general than this film. Not saying that this doesn't have a place, it does, but it's not the same feel.
Well, of course not.
And obviously it's not going for that, but
no.
From a preference and a personal style of choice, and even the way like things are drawn more colourful, and I think just Totoro just has that innocent child brought into life where it's done in a more magical, nicer, light-hearted manner. Yeah.
There's moments of like trouble with the character that May.
Yeah.
And she goes missing, and you think that she might be drowned or whatever, but it's
but it's not like not as hard hitting, is it?
No.
So should we be going to scoring? I'm gonna find this hard because I can't remember what I don't think we've scored Totoro because we've not covered it, but
no, but you must have an idea in your head for that, basically.
Yeah. We've done Ponyo though, haven't we?
Nope.
We're not. What Ghibli's
that? The only
Kiki's.
We've done Kiki's delivery service, and we've done with Taya from For the Love of History, Pompopo.
Pompopo. It's me going first.
It is, yeah.
So, like, are we ever going to cover Totoro? Because
I don't know.
I feel like that would be probably a 10 for me. So
no, I would thought that would have been. That is for me anyway. So
I can't say this is a 10. I'm gonna give it. It sounds really.
But I don't want you to be like too harsh about it just because of what it is. If you feel like it's, for me, like if it was something important enough for people to want to see. I mean, like.
I think it's just for me. I enjoyed it for the one viewing, and just because it's so hard hitting, I don't think I'd really want to.
Yeah, we'll be like, oh, let's crack that out, Grave of the Fireflies again.
Yeah, and I think that's my problem with scoring it, because I normally have to think of rewatchability within it, and this does have it, but I just don't think I'd want to.
Yeah, so it's like one and done for you essentially.
Yeah, and that's not saying it's a bad film. It's not. It's just it's a hard touching film, and I would like something a little bit more easy breezy.
Sure.
I think fairness of all, I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know. Yeah. It was going to be a 6.5, but then I bumped it up because I was like, well, the animation, the drawing, how beautiful it is.
The runtime.
The runtime was good.
Yeah. Nice and tight, yeah.
But I just feel like I can't truly score it so high because I didn't love it. But that's only because it's just so hard hitting, and it's worth a watch, and it is something to recommend to people. But it's not like you'll really enjoy it.
Oh no, I'd be very surprised if anyone's like, yeah, this is awesome. No.
What about you?
Well, my score is higher based off of not on an enjoyment level as such. It's more of an appreciation for the art and particularly of how they've told a story about war, kept it and done it in a way that is impactful, but not too much that's like, oh, I can't believe I'm watching it, I've got to turn it off type of scenario.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And as I just said just a moment ago, like how the runtime is nice and tight with it, so that kind of helps. It's not like one of these 2.5 hour epic, like, often it's like, okay, yeah, we get it, war is bad type of thing. This is kind of, I guess, for a child's attention span. I think it's 12 rated as well. Unlike, if I remember correctly, there's a film called In the Corner of This World that we've both watched. That's an anime. I think that's about like 2 hours in length, but I know that's not completely focused on the horrors of the bombings. But I feel like there's not a lot I really remember from.
Same. I was just gonna say, I know you've said this, and I'm like, I can see the cover in front of us, and I'm like, I did go to you beginning. Have I watched that? What does that say?
Yeah.
Whereas like Totoro, I know I've watched it, and I will remember the graves of the Firefly as well. I will remember.
Anyway, for my final score, I'm putting it at 9.
Oof. Well, Totoro needs to be at 11 then, and Ponyo. I know we don't score to that high, but that's just what I think. Because I can't feel like you can put Totoro and this in the same class.
Yeah, but it's not in the same class.
It's by 1 point.
Yes, but I'm like I just explained why.
I know. You have your opinions. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah.
Mr. High Scorer. Well, let's just hope not next anime, but the next one we're watching is going to be a bit better.
Well, it'll be something. I'll give you a couple of options. Just you.
Oh,
obviously
thank you.
Not the patrons. That's for the end of the month. But incidentally,
speaking of Patreons,
if you'd like to become a Patreon, then you can go to patreon.com/SP Film Viewers, like the good people that we already have, who are
passing the pillar on to me. Right. So we have Mark from 100 Things We Learned from Film.
Mm-hmm.
We have Ben from Film Vloggers. We have Jonesy, our friend, who's at Weight Loss Jonesy on Instagram. Then we've got my mum.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, we've got Nico from The Good, The Bad, The Weird podcast.
And if you would like to have your name read out and the opportunity to vote on what we watch once a month, it only costs
£1 or $1.50. And you can have the perk of torturing me even more on voting on films that I don't want to see. And you can also just be part of our little family and support us. And that'd be very, very nice if you did.
Yes, it would be. And it'd also be great if you left us a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, and wherever else they do the scoring system. And of course, if you want to check out some of our other episodes while you're there, you can do so on those podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever else you get your podcasts from.
And lastly, just to not bore everybody, we are also on social media, so if you haven't followed us, please follow us, like, subscribe, do all of that fancy stuff. So we're on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. So yeah, hit that like, follow, see all what Paul's posting, and give us your love.
Yeah, but very much appreciated. Anything else to add before we go?
No, just it's a wrap, and we're done. And let's have a better one next week. But I get to pick. So knowing my luck, it'll be crap.
No, there's stuff on the shelf.
No, so. But I mean, not like last time when I get to pick and it's in my hands and it's just my birthday special.
Oh, no. I meant, yeah, because it's going to be ones that neither of us have seen. But I know what you mean by the Hitchcock one. But yeah. But shouldn't be, because there's plenty on there that you should enjoy. That's kind of
I'll just go by the pretty pictures.
Right. Okay. So something a bit more cheerful next time, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I'm glad Are you glad you've seen it anyway?
I enjoyed it. Yeah. But that's it.
Yeah.
I'm done now.
Yeah. That. Okay.
Ghibli should be like Ponyo Totoro, like that kind of heartfelt.
Mm-hmm. So thank you very much for listening, and we will speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Bye.
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 Bye.